And now, a man struggling to fill a sufficient amount of video time talking about a movie that is in no way, shape, or form memorable or interesting. Let's watch. Hey, so you remember when the last 3 movies I reviewed were actually really good, even though it's August and the studios traditionally use this month as a place to dump anything that's not good but just slightly too expensive to go straight to Redbox? Yeah, that was a nice time. So, The Hitman's Bodyguard was one of those famously unproduced, how-has-this-not-been-bought-yet screenplays making the rounds back in 2011 as a straightforward action drama that 6 years later has wound up on screen as a visibly low-budget, big-cast action comedy supposedly rewritten into such on the fly to accommodate the fact that Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson are both better known these days as constantly quipping motor mouths in their default screen personas. In other words, it's a buddy road trip comedy in the Midnight Run knockoff mode starring not Deadpool and every Samuel L. Jackson movie where he hasn't been given an actual character to play. Sound good? Yeah, it is not. I'll concede that the setup is at least mildly original as these odd couple action comedy pairings go. Sure, Jackson is playing an infamous assassin who agrees to testify at the trial of a brutal dictator, and Reynolds is a former world-class bodyguard who gets conscripted to protect him en route to The Hague. So it's a guy who kills people for a living, teamed up with a guy who keeps people from getting killed for a living. And yes, they have a history together, they don't like each other. One of them is a neat freak who likes meticulous planning and fancy gadgets, the other is a messy, old-fashioned scrapper who likes to improvise. They have conflicting views on which of their vocation makes them the real good or real bad guy, and you'd best believe there's a supposedly shocking twist as to a surprise connection between the two of them that you will guess like 5 minutes into the damn movie. Now, is this a horrible movie? No, not really, but it's completely unmemorable, which, as we've discussed many times before, is actually kind of worse in my opinion. If it were genuinely bad, there might be more to talk about, or at least some kind of interest to be gleaned from watching it, but apart from the mildly surreal spectacle of watching generically over-the-top American action movie superviolence, i.e. car chases, shootouts, brutal stab fights, and other assorted mayhem being staged in the picturesque streets of Holland, the absurd contrast is kind of fun, though it'd be more fun if it felt like the movie knew that this was its best gag, rather than making 2 actors who are both too good for this shit do their stock stand-up routines at each other during a car trip. But then the whole movie is like that, i.e. a weird lack of self-awareness about what it has at its disposal and what it chooses to focus on instead. There's a whole subplot about how Jackson's character is only doing this to earn a pardon for his wife, a character played by Salma Hayek, who not only effortlessly steals the movie every time we cut away to her character, but who features in a flashback story about her history with Jackson's character that's immediately more interesting than anything we're asked to watch in the main storyline. I'd like to say the same thing about Reynolds' relationship angle with his estranged Interpol agent ex-girlfriend, but they gave that role to Elodie Yung, and, well, after Daredevil, G.I. Joe 2, Gods of Egypt, and this, I'm starting to think it might not be just the choice of projects that's making her look like the worst actress to come along in a long time. Sorry. But beyond that, and an obligatory note that yes, Expendables 3 director Patrick Hughes is a pretty good hand at the action beats, and that there's a decent hand-to-hand fight in a hardware store that comes in way too late to actually make a difference, there's really nothing else to recommend here. Like I said, it's not so much bad as it is forgettable. Hell, they even got Gary Oldman to play the bad guy, and it's such a generic throwaway role that even he can't overact his way into making an impact with it. I mean, how do you mess that up? On the other hand, though, it is frustratingly competent, if that makes any sense at all, so it's never exactly unwatchable. I laughed at a few of the jokes, I wasn't bored during the action bits, and if I could have fooled myself that the way too complicated storyline was going to eventually matter, I might even have been mildly interested in that, at least right up until the point where I wasn't. Everyone involved seems like they were having fun here, but they also look like they wish they were doing anything else. And you've seen every one of them do better things elsewhere. Maybe it's worth seeing if you're an action junkie who's already seen Atomic Blonde and you absolutely must see an explosion this weekend, but otherwise, this is a movie that puts the D- in disposable. 1.5 stars, you should find something else to do.